Hey everybody, welcome back to Short Free Games Talk Podcast.
This is episode 2.
Episode 2. I'm your host, Chrissy.
And I'm Clyde,
Today,
the co-host.
We're going to be talking about short free
Games.
Alright, so let's kick it off.
Okay.
Let's get the party started. What game do you want to talk about first? Clyde made me play some games this week. So let's do the art games first.
Okay.
So the two art games that I played this week are City Lights and Ephemer, if we're saying that correctly.
Even if we're not saying it correctly, we still played it.
This is how we're gonna reference it for the rest of the show. So.
Ephemer. Ooh, that's good.
So why'd you pick these games out?
I'm excited. I'm very much excited about City Lights. I'm also excited about Ephemer, but the thing that I wanted to show you was that there's this game where you're basically creating kaleidoscopic feedback, and the control system for it is a traditional first-person explorer controls, where you move forward, backwards, and then use mouse look. And by doing that, you are actually creating a kaleidoscopic effect. And I think that it's really interesting to see that control scheme used to explore almost what seems like an additional dimension, rather than just 3D space.
Okay.
And I wanted you to play Ephemer as a comparative piece to City Lights, because it has kind of like a similar goal in that you're creating these abstract and attractive symmetrical shapes, and the method by which you create those shapes is every keyboard has a different every keyboard button has a different function, and so it's a matter of exploring the keyboard to kind of determine what does what. And I think that those two design decisions are very much opposed to each other, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about how that differentiates.
You know, that's interesting. That you've been telling me all week, or talking about the controllers so much, and now I feel like I'm just hearing it for the first time, that you picked these games because of the controls, because I didn't even consider the controls when I was playing it, even though, okay, so let's start with City Lights. It's like you're on a flat plane that has large rectangles. You can walk forward.
Pillars.
Yeah. You can walk through them. As you walk forward, and you can't just stand there because nothing happens.
Yep, which you tried one time because you thought it was a timer.
Yeah. As you walk forward, it's like this screen.
Ooh, Einstein's got something.
No, she's just growling. It must be Orange Cat.
Oh no. Should I shut the door?
No, it's fine. As you walk forward, it's like, oh no, it's Sherlock. As you walk forward, it has that kaleidoscope, or not what is it that we used when we were making video, where mirror image. It becomes like a mirror image. And then, I think it's Orange Cat.
I think it's Orange Cat, too.
I think we should pause and you should go, or I'll explain the game while you go shut the cat door. And then...
maybe you should tell them about Orange Cat.
No, maybe I shouldn't. And then as we walk forward from that, and then the sound gets like split into two, or how does the sound work? Is it like doubles? I can't quite remember.
It adds as many tones as it has reflective planes.
He says it adds as many tones as it has reflective planes. So then you go forward, and it like kind of collides into three, and this is where it becomes like a kaleidoscope-esque kind of application. And then you go forward, and it's 4 and 5 and 6 until you can like get out of the area. I'll give you an example of what it looks like. if you've ever played music from your CD collection
Oh yeah,
on
on the Xbox
Xbox, and you have like that like crazy
visualizer.
yeah in the background, I actually saw the exact same
It was
star.
quite a coincidence.
Yeah, in this game is in the other day.
We after playing these games and discussing them a little bit, I pulled out a DVD that we had recorded like 15 years ago of where you can get video feedback by pointing a camera at a television while having it plugged into the television to show what the camera sees.
It's more like a fractal
Yeah,
than a kaleidoscope, though.
that's actually a very significant distinction. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this game, you can still like maneuver using the mouse and keyboard, but you're maneuvering the kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm. And yourself in space.
Yeah, but you can't really tell that you're moving. I mean, at this point, there's nothing recognizable about the environment.
Well,
I mean, the space is just you know it's there, but it's not like you're referencing it.
when I'm still on 4 planes, like until I get to like around 5 of the tones, of the tones of the planes, I can recognize the space in which I am.
Mm.
And I wonder why the pillars aren't colored.
Well, when you walk through the pillar, it becomes a different color halfway through.
See, it seems so.
I think he does that as reference.
Because yeah, when you walk through the
Or she, I don't know who made this game.
when you clip through the pillar, you end up with this colored interference pattern just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're walking forward in the game and you're getting the kaleidoscopic effect, it seems like the colors occur even. I mean, I guess I could be clipping, but it's hard for me to believe that I'm clipping for as many colors as I'm getting.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem like, well, for the interference pattern, it's to know you're walking through.
Okay.
Like it's a reference. Because it happens every time. So even when you're in the middle of the kaleidoscope, if it gets fuzzy, you know you're walking through the edge of a pillar.
See, I was thinking of it as some sort of like, I was thinking of the kaleidoscopic effect, or the particular colors and shapes you get out of the kaleidoscope, being direct references to what you would be seeing with the camera in the environment. Like just this idea of like the camera is the same, but it's the camera's being reflected. And so I would think that you'd end up with a lot more black and white images because it feels like there's a lot more space where you're only seeing black and white in that 3D environment.
Yeah, that's true. But you're not. That's true, you're not.
Yeah, I don't know how the color gets introduced.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we're comparing this game to Ephemer?
I'd like to.
Okay. So in Ephemer, do you want to talk about that one?
Ephemer is a game where you start off with a pseudo randomized clump of triangular planes that are rotated in random rotations.
Okay. I can't resist saying this again.
Go for it, man.
It's like that More game.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the More game, but where the person...
People don't know what the More game is.
Okay, maybe you've seen the More art then.
They haven't seen Manfred Moore's art.
Well, imagine Clyde made a game inspired by Manfred Moore's art, but instead of having his triangles lay flat and up in different ways to show 3D space. Or no, that's what this person did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
they did an excellent job representing 3D space with their triangles.
The planes are not flat. It's not just randomized planes at different levels of depth, but all flat in parallel on a 2-dimensional area. It's like they're all House of Cardsy, where it's like,
oh yeah,
you take the 2D planes and you kind of angle them in 3D space to create these almost like a paper craft kind of feel.
But you really get the sense of 3D space when you're looking at it.
I agree. Unless you make it so stretched that it becomes I a couple times I ended up stretching out the image so much that it
Really?
yeah, it would end up being almost like a pulsing room, which
Mm.
was cool. It's cool that it's got that breadth.
But that's not the only imagery, because I got a lot of straight lines that you can move up and down and kind of weave together.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the buttons does that. I think one of the buttons makes it so that they're like um stratified in
Mm.
some way.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
Well, I mean, so yeah, you end up with this clump of very harsh, sharp-looking shapes typically, and they're
Of the geometric variety.
moving to like a very simple beat typically. I keep on thinking of it as like a heartbeat. Um, and as you explore the keyboard to determine what does what, um, you can if you press backspace, it gives you a readout on the values of the particular value you're changing at the time.
I don't understand the value part. You were trying to explain this to me yesterday. The whole, like,
Phrase it as a question.
I feel like you called it bowls, but I don't know if that's what it is.
Floats.
Floats. Okay, so what does that even mean? Because I
It's-
still don't
it's just
understand
an-
how I can use it.
It's just a number that includes decimals, and what that implies is that you can tune it very finely.
But how?
Well, in FMR, some of the keys are adjusting decimal values, and so when you press one of them, it'll start going up, like 1.23, 1.74, 2.35, and
But
so on and
what's
so on.
changing?
Depends on which key you're pressing.
Mm.
And some of the ones that I've seen were changing. The shapes have. It seems like the shapes have multiple axes of wobble. So think of like kind of like a pendulum swing kind of deal,
Okay.
but in different directions. So I was adjusting that with at some point, and so when you get up to like ranges like 3,000, you're going to end up with something so severe that you often can't even determine what it does. And what I find myself doing is if you hit spacebar in that game, it randomizes it. Supposedly, we actually had some trouble with that. It didn't randomize it sometimes.
But mostly, it's supposed to.
Yes, it appears that it's supposed to always work. And so when you hit the spacebar, you end up with these random amalgamations of shapes and such in settings. And what I find myself doing is pressing backspace to find out what the value is, and then getting it down to 0. But sometimes I remember one I was trying to get all the way down to 0 by holding down the key until it went to 0. But like once I got to around 75, that's when it kind of like seemed to hit a midpoint and then reverse. And so I like getting to that midpoint. I like balancing out all of the controls, because once you get to that balance point, going in one direction or going in the other direction, it's a lot easier to tell what the keys are doing.
It's funny, though, because when you were trying to explain this to me while I was playing it, I thought you were saying, hit the number that's on the screen, and that will do something. And that's why I kept trying to hit 0.
Oh.
And I was like, it's not doing anything.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would, not, yeah.
That's where the Mystic Communication lay, if you will. Okay.
So I mean, I don't know what else to say except for that. I think that these two games have just hugely different experiences based off of the controls.
But
More so than the images, even.
What were you thinking about with having them compared? Like, did you not have a specific thing in mind already when you were picking them out to compare them?
I think the reason that they're an interesting comparison is because the reward system, the reward structure, and the motivation to explore are very similar. In that, in both games, you're not going to hit a victory condition. You're just manipulating the audio visual components of the world or the screen. And in one case you're doing it with WASD and mouse look, and in the other one you're doing it with arbitrary assignments to the keyboard presses.
Well, for me, city lights, because I am such an optimizer, even though it's not something I want to be, as soon as I saw what the game was, I wanted to stop. Like, I wasn't interested in using the controller to manipulate the kaleidoscopes. Because to me, all kaleidoscopic images look the same.
Yeah, you burned through it. You just went straight forward, and you were like,
okay, I'm done.
Okay, 1, 2, 3 planes, 4 planes, 5 planes, 6 planes.
And then there's so much image on the screen, it becomes abrasive. So I can't stay in the high images.
My experience of playing City Lights was questioning whether or not the world around me was determining the image, and kind of like finding the spot where I could kind of tell that I was walking around a pillar.
So you liked having a point of reference
on two types of perspective.
So you were picturing the landscape while you were looking at the kaleidoscope and trying to compare what you knew the landscape looked like to what you were actually looking at.
Right, because it was like it was using two different parts of my brain.
I see.
Like I would get to the point where I'd be like, "Oh, can I identify what I'm walking around right now?" And
yeah, because that's what you were saying the whole time I was playing, and I was like, "Who cares? It's a pillar. It's a flat plane with some pillars on it."
So when I focused on one, I would realize that I had no ability to determine the other, and then I'd switch to the other, and then kind of like it was neat to balance to determine right where my limitation is, and then look at that on the screen and be like, this is kind of interesting, almost like playing pinball. Like, sometimes it seems like you'll get to one level and then kind of plateau a little bit. And or in other games too, you kind of plateau in skill level, but it's interesting to do that in a game where there's no real fail state. You're still plateauing, but that was largely because of the objective I was determining, right? Which
I could see myself at a different time of me being really interested in making the kaleidoscopes, because now I look at the video feedback we made and I was like, how the hell was I interested in this for longer than 10 seconds? But we made a whole DVD of it and talking about it.
See, well, I don't know what it was like for you, but for me, a really big part of being able to enjoy it is being able to manipulate it.
Right. So, well, that's what I'm saying is maybe a different time me would have really enjoyed being able to make these kaleidoscopes, because there are a lot of manipulative factors.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I was distracted.
What were you thinking about?
I will be able to remember it, but I want to hear what you said.
Okay. I was saying that I think the old me would have appreciated this in the same way as. Are you listening?
Yep.
As I did video feedback, because you can manipulate it.
Oh man, you would have fucking loved that shit.
Yeah.
And it's surprising to me that you've grown out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's because, again, I have a hard time with I think a lot of my brain is so used to narratives, because I spend 90% of my time reading, that maybe I'm impatient with not just images, but things I think I already know. Like, oh, this is just a kaleidoscope. Oh, it's going to be the same image in a different way. I think I optimize it into...
Well, what about narrative tropes?
Like what?
Do you know whether or not it's going to end in tragedy?
Not always. Sometimes they decide to do it in the last 3 seconds.
But when they do it in the last 3 seconds, isn't it kind of like it doesn't even count?
Yeah, it doesn't count.
So
It's stupid.
so if you can predict whether or not if they're gonna end up together or it's gonna end in tragedy,
But I don't know how.
how you're gonna get there.
Right.
I could make the same claim with the kaleidoscope,
Mm.
but I guess the hows are not as distinct, right? The hows look very similar to each other.
And the outcome looks very similar to each other. Yeah, but I guess you're saying, that's a good point. Maybe that's not the reason. Maybe I think that's the reason, but it's not. I need to. I think what I'm trying to communicate is I'm glad that I'm playing these games because I hadn't realized that I'd lost the skill to appreciate things like patterns or
Yeah.
things that I
Non-objective orientated,
right
abstract
It-
results.
appreciating it is a skill,
Yeah, totally. I agree.
right, that I hadn't realized I had lost.
Since we're talking about narratives, let's go to the Catamites.
Wait. We didn't get to talk about Ephemera, and I really liked Ephemera. I wanted to talk about it.
Oh, what do you want to say?
But what were you thinking about when you were listening?
I was going to ask you if you played a lot with musical visualizers on PC, like in the early 2000s.
I don't think I had a computer in the early 2000s. I didn't come from that rich family like you.
Shannon had one, right?
It was a Mac, so we never turned it on. I went to, because we lived in the town with a university, so I used to go to the library, because that's before they password protected.
The libraries, yeah.
Yeah. So I would go to the university, and what I would do is I would actually look up like movies scripts and just sit and read movie scripts.
Okay, so you weren't paying attention to the visualizers.
No. Okay.
See, Styles was super into music visualizers, and when new ones would come out, he would download the new one and be like, "Oh, this one's so much better than the other one." And we'd listen to like techno and watch the visual.
Really?
Yeah, totally. It was fun.
Oh,
It was fun
wow.
as shit. And it makes me wonder, like,
I just remember people having those posters, like those fractal posters,
Yeah.
and that, or like 3D, those things where you look at it and the 3D pops out. It's
Magic
like,
Eye.
Yeah, it's like all of those are pattern art, I think of.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Well, when they're in motion, it's like when they're in motion to music.
no,
It can be a really good time.
I never went through that phase. Okay. What I wanted to say about Ephemera that's different, that in the reason I was more interested in it, even though I'm not comparing them in like a positive negative way. The thing that
engaged you.
Yeah, the thing that engaged me was that I had so much control to manipulate, even though almost everything I did was abrasive and I wanted it to stop. I was still really curious about what the changes would bring. I couldn't optimize it.
Right.
I didn't know what the next image was going to be. I didn't know what the next sound was going to be.
Because you couldn't understand it, you spent more time attempting to do so.
Right, and I had more fun manipulating the image and manipulating the sounds because I couldn't predict what was going to happen.
I remembering you. I watched you play it, and there were 5 to 10 moments where you had like genuine joyful surprise at something that happened because of a key press.
Yeah, there was a lot of fun things that happened.
Even though
there
it might
was just
not happen,
a lot of abrasive things.
even though that thing that might happen that would surprise you, you might try to turn off immediately after and fail to do so.
Yeah,
Like
right.
you had you did not have control over what
Did
happened.
not have control.
You had control over sometimes things would change.
I was happy about it. What did you like about Ephemera? Or what did you have an experience you wanted to talk about Ephemera? It seemed like you're more focused on City Lights and I'm more focused on Ephemera.
Yeah, I mean yes. But that isn't completely fair because the games do provide something very different to me. Largely the asymmetry of Ephemera I find really interesting. I would say more interesting visually. I like the asymmetrical aspect. But So I think what happens is part of getting super into thinking about games, I developed this fantasy of being able to introduce people that don't play games to games.
Mm.
And so I'm always looking for like what I consider more accessible.
This is what you come up with?
And so City Lights is like, objectiveless, but gives you tons of visual and auditory feedback. So there's no fail state, but you're still changing the things that happen on the screen, and it's fun to explore, and you can't fuck up. And it uses, of course, moving forwards and mouse looking is notorious for being unaccessible for people that don't play games. But
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, like I was just talking to someone yesterday about that actually.
Do tell.
They were saying that they were telling me that when I mentioned that I make games, they said that they have a Super Nintendo controller that plugs into a USB, and they play a bunch of emulated games from the Super Nintendo era.
Wow, that's sad to hear.
And that once console gaming went into first person, they could not play it any longer. The navigation was too disorientating for them.
It was really hard. I think my first game, no, I played a lot of Tomb Raider. Never mind, I take it back. But I remember when you introduced me to first-person shooters, and it was like a whole new way of learning to controller. But it wasn't that hard, so new that I was unwilling to learn it.
The way that multiple people have explained it to me, this is not the technique with which they used to explain it to me. What I'm saying is, based off of similar experiences of having it explained to me, it seems like for some people it's just a no-go. Like there is an actual limitation in their spatial reasoning, or
just like I'm gonna
nausea,
get motion
possibly,
sick no matter what when it comes to the Oculus. Like I just might as well.
Well, we don't know that yet.
We know it.
We don't know.
I get motion sick with everything.
We'll see.
Okay, so let's. Do you feel satisfied?
No, because I didn't really get to talk about.
Okay, good. Go ahead, talk about
it. Ephemer. So with City Lights, it provides me with that accessibility fantasy. I think, this is a game my mom could play, okay. And she could probably get something out of. In reality, Mom wants to play Assassin's Creed, right? Because
in reality, your mom wants to play Fairy Solitaire.
Well, yeah, but like she likes being able to kill shit, and she likes to be able to score.
She?
Yeah, she likes to be able to kill shit, and she likes to be able to score points, and that's what it seems like with
what?
yeah.
The only game she ever plays is Fairy Solitaire. It makes me think she likes flipping cards.
When I put Assassin's Creed 2 in front of her, she was like, I could do this all day.
Are you serious? Where was I?
Probably at home freaking out about me getting my mom to play a video game.
Okay.
So, yeah, like she likes very objective based stuff. If I put City Lights in front of her, the reality of it would be like, so what am I supposed to do?
Right.
But again, it provides me with that accessibility fantasy. Ephemer does not provide me with the accessibility fantasy.
Which is weird because it's so much more I feel like it's more accessible.
The thing is, you're punching all sorts of keys, you're poking a lot, but it doesn't always respond.
Yeah, but I mean,
some of them are binaries. Like some of them are setting bools on and off, or true and false, and other ones are slightly adjusting float values. And without even if you don't realize that you should press backspace to be able to determine the difference between the two, all of those float value ones are going to feel like dead keys.
But they are. But I mean, you're kind of like along for the ride in that one.
I'm with you.
Part of.
I don't associate that with accessibility, though.
Okay, you're right. I agree. You're right.
The thing I really enjoy about Ephemer is well, we didn't really talk about how much the sound really.
Oh yeah.
Really makes that game like you're not just manipulating the shapes on the screen and the visuals. You're manipulating a strange soundscape, and that can be really satisfying, especially with there's like a click that comes in like a really loud click, like almost like a sharp clap, and when it clicks, it makes some of the shapes turn like a bright yellow or a white just for the moment of the click, and that's super satisfying.
I just wanted to spin this moment to say that we're going to put up screenshots of these games on Tumblr. So if you're curious about what this looks like.
And links to the games.
Yeah.
So you might as well read it off now.
Okay. So it'll be on Short Free Games Talk, all one word, .tumblr.com. And we'll have screenshots of these games. So.
Short Free Games Talk.
.tumblr.com.
.tumblr.com.
Yep. So you can see like what we're talking about. But go ahead.
You want to move on to
Did you say what you were going to say?
I said what I was going to say.
Okay, let's talk about the Catamites game. Okay. First off, I said this before and I'll say it again. It's really intimidating to play a Catamites game. Clyde is a Catamites fan.
The Catamites
fan. And so much so that I feel like I'm required to have a certain reaction when playing these games.
I fantasize about calling them.
Okay, I don't know if I want to know
this. Like combining the words. You know what I'm trying to say? The Catamites. The Catamites.
If I don't interrupt you, are you going to keep going?
Until I get it.
Okay, so,
and then I'll say it a couple times.
So...
excitedly.
So, this game, luckily I really liked, so I didn't have to, like, worry about, having a negative reaction to something Clyde's really into. So that was definitely a plus.
Why don't you want to have a negative reaction to something I'm really into?
Well, because there's got to be a reason you like it so much. Like, if I could just understand what it is that you're so fascinated by when you talk so positively about these things, there's got to be something there, or you wouldn't be. I mean, you have
it's a dissonance where you're like, I know it's here, I just can't get there.
Yeah, like I trust your taste so much that it's really difficult for me when I don't see what the attraction is in something that you appreciate. Like, okay, Tom Waits, there's some things that you like that I know are not good, but
Tom Waits is so good.
But most of it is not the case. So yeah, that's why. So, you want to talk about Operative Assailants?
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly. You want me to describe it, and then you can talk about your experience?
Sure. If that's what you're interested in.
So when you start off, Operative Assailants is it's a member of the Ship 50 Short Games collection. When you start it off, you get a black and white screen that says Operative Assailants, and what you have is a roster of what are secret agents of some sort, and they all have kind of like a very, not archetypical, but very distinct abilities and appearances and names. So, for instance, one of the operatives is a car. One of the operatives is a cinder block. One of the operatives is someone with jet boots or anti-grav boots. And so when you click on their name, you go through their moment of the mission.
And they're communicating with like the chief.
Yeah. There's a omnipresent character throughout all of these vignettes, where it's like he or she is basically trying to tell them what their mission is, and what the plan is, and how and what they're supposed to do in order to whatever they're trying to do.
They're trying to, it's like infiltrate the evil lair or something.
Yeah. So,
okay. Why did you pick out this game?
Let's see if I can remember.
Like, there's a narrative.
There is a narrative.
It's really
funny. I remember why. Because we were in the last episode, we were talking about your need for objectives, and I think that this is an interesting game because largely because it's so entertaining to fail your objective over and over again, and so it's an interesting middle ground because it's not objective based. It's actually a matter of discoverability, similar to something like Secret Habitat is largely about discoverability, not fulfilling an objective, but it's under the guise that it is objective based. So at no point do you feel like you're directionless, but what you're constantly rewarded with, and by rewarded I mean once you fail, you are rewarded with like narrative content. So I wanted to see how you reacted to it.
Okay. Well, I just played it again before the show, and I realized that the thing that I was most excited about only happens once.
Is it just that Petey?
Yeah, Pete. But here's the thing. Me and Clyde talked a lot about this week about ways to talk about these games. And one of the ways is to talk about something that it does. Wait, how do you say it?
I don't know. How you respond to it?
Things that you respond to. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job describing it.
Okay. Well, I mean, how does it relate to Pete?
This was what the entire game was for me. The Pete situation. And I like pushed it on the rest of the game.
I see.
But I would love it if the whole game did this. I would love it if every game did this.
So what you're saying is that the first time you played it, the scene with, isn't that Petey?
It's Pete.
It's Pete?
I checked.
The first scene, or the scene...
I hope I'm not wrong.
The scene with Pete, was so memorable to you the first time you played through that when you retrospectively considered operative assailants, you thought that they were all like Pete's mission?
Yes.
Maybe you should describe Pete's mission.
I will. Okay. So like Clyde said, each person is like doing the infiltration of this building while talking to the chief. And so Pete is locked in a room, and he's on a platform at the top of the room with a locked door.
I just visualize it and I just laugh every time. It's so funny to me.
And he's like talking to the chief about the door's locked. And the chief is like, "Well, you're gonna have to get the key." And it's like you can tell Pete's like the slow one. You know, Chief was like totally supportive of everybody.
But Pete's always whining.
It's like
about problems that only Pete sees these problems.
It's like Pete got the short end. I mean, nobody got the short end of the stick more than Cinderblock, but Pete fucking.
Are you talking about Cinderblock still alive doing their mission?
So he's like, "You're gonna have to get the key." So the key is underneath the platform, and in between you and the key, there's these 3 falling spikes. And it's like you said, as soon as you start moving, you're like, "I'm not going to move as fast to those spikes.
I don't think I'm going to make it.
I don't think I'm going to make it." But you can't get out of the room. I mean, you have to just take the chance. You have to trust the captain.
And it's in video game form, so you're kind of like used to this idea of like, oh, well, maybe it's like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where I just have to take that
leap of faith.
That step forward, even though I can't see the floor.
Yeah. I'm not going to make it, but you like do it anyway, and of course you die immediately. So
and it goes straight back to the title screen where you're picking the next person. It's not like Pete gets no epilogue.
No. But what I really, really liked about that is because we've been playing a lot of games, and I feel like a lot of them it's like they wanted to write a story, but they decided to put it in game form, and the only thing that is added to it being in game form is that you click, but the clicking doesn't actually do anything.
You're talking about like visual novels?
Yeah, visual novels. So that, again, I'm talking about the book and the dog and the bird game.
Okay.
Like I don't feel like putting it in game form was a good idea. It just made it more work, and you're just funneling me down into the thing you're trying to tell me, and I'm clicking to get there.
See, I disagree.
Well, let me finish my point, and then you can disagree. But in this case, I feel like the gameplay actually you realize what a hopeless situation it is. You can't do anything but the thing you're being told to do, and then you're actually physically forced to do it. It's not like you read Petey tried to get the key and couldn't do it. You like actually have to go through the motions of failure. And it is so good to actually have to like do the thing that you know that you're not supposed to do as part of the sequence.
And you feel like you're having the experience that Pete is having.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this is stupid. Oh, this is so stupid and hopeless.
I know this isn't going to work.
I know this isn't going to work.
It's like Pete partially wants to get flattened by the spike.
Yeah, he's like, I just want out of this.
Just so that people can see that he was right about his fears.
Or it could be like, okay, if the guy says this is gonna work, this is gonna work, you know. But it's just a matter of like, oh, it's so nice to have reflective gameplay. To me,
yeah, it is exciting when a mechanic can express to the player what the character is supposed to be thinking and feeling.
Yeah, whereas the rest, when I replayed it again, I realized it wasn't as much that in the others as it was in Pete.
Yeah. Okay.
But how were you going to disagree with?
Oh well, I'm this week I've been playing a lot of visual novels. I'm going through games lists on the Ren Pie community because I want to study romance games so I can eventually make them. Mm-hmm. And they tend to be visual novels. So
visual novels are awesome.
I guess some people might not know what a visual novel is. It's basically an animated book where you click in order to make the text go forward, and every once in a while you might end up with a choice. If it's a kinetic novel, then you have no choices. You're just clicking to make the scenes progress and the text progress. But every once in a while it's a choose your own adventure. In
a good one, you end up with the person you prefer based off of your choices. In a bad one, you spend a lot of time putting points into skills so you can accomplish something that is too Sims-like. I don't want to go to the bathroom and work in a game.
A lot of these have a format where between the interesting conversations with people, you are choosing what to do that day.
I bet a lot of people play Persona. It's like Persona without the grinding.
Yeah. Because
you put points in.
Yeah.
You have choices.
Neither of us enjoy that kind of management sim type of thing.
Right. We don't. But I really enjoy the idea of visual novels because I want to play a romance or mystery game. I could see a visual novel being a mystery game. Mm-hmm. Where
Phoenix Wright is kind of that, right?
Yeah. And I want to actually, instead of ending up with the right person, the person I would like. I want to not optimize. That's what I want out of a visual novel.
Me too, and luckily I'm incapable of it. I should know the name of this. I'll put a link to it on the Tumblr. But it's I think it's called Finding a Date for the Prom. There's 3 possible romantic candidates. One of which is like your childhood friend. One of which is a younger student that you get to boss around.
And apparently likes it.
And I think likes getting bossed around.
Even though he doesn't go to the prom with you, so he didn't really
Spoilers.
Like it.
So, and then, one guy that's just a jerk. He's like a womanizer.
He crosses off ladies' names after they ask him out in his little book.
Oh, creepy. So when I played this, I was like, I really enjoyed bossing that kid around. And I thought it was really flirtatious and really fun. And then he fucking didn't go to the prom with me. I'm like,
nobody went to the prom with
me. And
you.
It was funny because like I played like half of the game and ended up talking to Chrissy about it like halfway through, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like there's this kid that like I get to boss around all the time.
But he likes it.
But he likes it.
And I'm thinking, no, he doesn't.
I'm like, but he likes it, and it's fun to boss him around, and it's kind of romantic. And she's like, okay. And then I finished the game, and he apparently didn't like it at all because he doesn't want to go to the prom with me. But my point here was that I enjoyed the narrative that happened by getting no date at all. Like I failed completely. I have no desire to play that game again. I liked the way that the story ended up, and it's me going kind of like, oh, okay, so my lack of interest in coming to them on their terms. It wasn't like there was one guy who wanted you to not come to him on his terms. They all wanted you to come to them on their terms. And I was thinking that I would end up with the free-spirited hippie kid, I guess.
No.
By
Default.
just being myself. I just needed to be
Sorry,
myself.
Tracy, it's not gonna work.
And they would see me for my true value, but that was not the case.
Well,
and I thought that was a really neat experience to have in a game, like to go, oh wow, just being myself is not good enough.
Well, to bring it back, that is clicking for purpose. I'm talking about visual novels where they have something they're trying to tell you, and it doesn't matter what your choices are.
You talking about Kindness Coins right now?
I wasn't going to bring up the name.
Well, I mean, just say it. It is what it is.
Okay, with Kindness Coins, it should be more of a kinetic novel than it is a visual novel, because it really doesn't seem like your choices have any effect. But the whole thing is about them trying to get you to have an experience, so the time that the main character has a speech, you'll understand the circumstance in which the speech is relevant.
The game is highly rhetorical.
So it's like a fable. They're
Yeah.
trying to set up a situation for you to see where they're coming from when they make their big point.
Yep.
But for me,
It's like the speech at the end of a coming-of-age movie.
Yeah, totally. But for me, by the time we got to the speech, I was like, I just played this whole game so you could funnel me into this speech. Nothing I did mattered. I was just clicking for nothing. You should have just wrote a story.
Well, you were role-playing a little bit, right? You were deciding how to treat the guy. I remember you saying that you let him off easy because you understood that was an easy mistake for him to make.
Yeah, this
that's
poor
playing.
kid fell into a hole and he was about to get told. I was trying to make it worse than it was, less worse than it was. But in a way, now that we're talking about it, I guess putting yourself in the situation for the point to make sense. It's just that I didn't like that it was dressed up like a visual novel when it wasn't a visual novel.
It was a visual novel, though. You're saying that because it didn't have multiple endings?
I'm saying that because it really didn't matter. It didn't matter if I let him off easy or not. It didn't matter what you said to the girl.
What could the game have done that would have made that matter?
You could have had an option where she wouldn't have said the speech. That would never happen because the whole game was about the speech.
That's true. That's true.
The whole game was about the speech.
I agree. I just don't think that's a negative thing personally. I think it's a, for me, having a game where the entire thing is based around a punchline, I'm glad those exist, just like other ones.
Well, the more we talked about it just now, the more I understand the being in the environment for the speech to make sense. I guess that's the difference between a game and a story. You can actually feel like you're at the party. Dude comes over.
You're going through the motions.
You talk some shit about him beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wish it would have played it without me having to click to get there. Because me clicking didn't have anything to do with getting there.
Do you think it had to do with you not identifying with the character that you're playing?
And knowing where it was coming from and me being like, oh.
You felt you disagreed with the
I didn't disagree with it.
With the well, you were repulsed by the indignance?
Yes, I was. And she did the same thing as that guy did right after that. She was like beating around the bush with the one-eyed girl, and not being straightforward, even though she was totally like. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You-
let's move on.
Um,
So, is there anything you wanted to talk about with secret agents?
Secret Agents?
I mean, not sorry, operative assailants.
No, we talked it. I did mention how that game is all about failing and how failing is entertaining.
Yeah,
That's a theme I really enjoy.
that's the theme you enjoyed. Okay.
Um,
So our last game we're going to talk about, since we said we are going to talk about it, you put us in this situation. So.
yeah, we're never going to do that again.
Never.
We're never going to say
Never.
what game we're going to talk about next week because it totally fucked us up this week.
Yeah, by us, he means us. So I was going to say you, but no, I fucked both of us up.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about Dancing Girls, or should I? I guess it's my turn to talk about a game. Dancing Girls is this game where
That I made.
that Clyde made. Well, I wasn't going to say that.
Well, I would feel weird not saying that.
I know, I was just being funny though. Ha ha ha. So it's a game where you can play, and you should probably explain this better than me because I don't understand the how many keys you have for the accordion thing.
I don't either. But if you've ever had a harmonica, you've probably noticed that if you blow through one way, all the notes sound good together. And if you suck through, then you get different notes that also sound good together. So the notes are organized in a push pull template or categorization, and they're organized based off of what sounds harmonious. I have a Tory accordion that does the same thing, and I don't know if it's doing two different pentatonic scales. I'm not sure. I don't know enough musical theory, but it's a really fun instrument to play, and for years I walked around neighborhoods playing it because it was fun to play a squeeze box in public. And
Before he married,
yeah,
don't bring attention to us, Chrissy. We have to blend.
And it's just a really fun instrument because you feel like you don't have to think too much about it. Like anything you press is going to sound good. The only thing that matters is that you play with confidence. Like if you just, it's true. If you just play that thing like you know how to, like everything is going to be fine as long as you press the buttons in rhythm and you're not going to screw up.
Yeah, in rhythm.
Well, yeah, but
You still have to. You take so much for granted.
okay.
The things that you have to, that you know how to do. This is the same thing when I was learning how to play guitar and you're just like push stuff down.
No,
Oh, that was a nightmare.
that is a completely different situation. It's a
Well,
direct opposite.
What I'm trying to say is you take information for granted here, just like you do there, a skill that you have in making it sound good, and you just think it's because you're doing whatever.
Do you play the harmonica?
I don't play anything.
Well, have you played a harmonica?
I have in my life.
Did it seem easy to play?
It is the black keys, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that, like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Or playing just black keys on the piano is
Yeah,
another
yeah,
example.
yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Well, wait, I didn't really say what the game is.
Oh, sorry.
So the game is basically a digital version of that, where it's a computer game where you can have that type of organization of notes where they're organized by push and pull so that you won't screw it up, and so people can kind of like have the experience that I had with the accordion. And some of the visual, you don't only have the auditory feedback of pleasant sounding music, but you also have the visual feedback of choreographed dances that are tied to the keys.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to say about it. What I wanted to talk about was like the type of game it was, because I spent so much time this week thinking about categorizing these games. So, how would you...
Oh, I see.
How would you... I mean, it's an application. It's a small version of something big, so that you can see what it's like to do the big thing without actually having to commit to doing it, right?
What?
It's like a microcosm of what it's like to play the accordion.
It's a simulation.
So you would call it a simulation game.
Okay, you're asking me if I was to categorize it.
Yeah, when you were making
musical
it,
toy.
when you were making it, you were like, I would like to have a accordion musical toy, or I would like other people to have an accordion
Yeah,
musical toy?
well, it was a blend of the two. It was thinking I would like other people to have a musical toy, and if I can if I can piggyback on the success that the accordion had with me in my personal experience,
Mm.
and if I can provide that to other people, that opportunity to other people, then they're going to end up liking the game for the same reasons that I ended up liking the toy accordion. Like I felt like I was stealing a trick. I didn't feel bad about it, but
Stealing a trick? What does that mean?
um, I felt like I had experienced an inordinate amount of success with a
Mm.
toy, and that inordinate amount of initial success made me play a lot of it and enjoy the process of learning, and I associate that with the accordion. So if I can create something that someone associates with something that I made, that would be a point of pride for me.
So can you think of any other games
El-
that are like,
Electroplankton?
but what is that like? I mean, it's not like you get to see what it's like playing a
Oh, I see what you're
leaf.
saying. No, you're saying that it's not translatable to
Mm-hmm.
other devices.
Yeah, like you get to see what it's like playing an accordion.
Well,
And it's just as difficult, honestly.
you get to see what it's like playing this accordion.
It's so hard to pump it in and out while playing the keys. It's like, oh.
Like a real accordion's a fucking workout. Like
Oh, yeah.
a real accordion is
Heavy.
an ordeal. This is more like finding out what it's like to play a harmonica, and it was not intended to be instructional. If I had found a note combination that sounded more pleasing to me than the ones that were directly modeled from the toy accordion I have,
Mm-hmm.
then I would have switched, because it being instructive to a real world phenomenon was not something I was interested in achieving. It was all about just creating. I have a reoccurring dream where I go to a pawn shop and find a musical instrument, and
Is it really a reoccurring
totally,
dream?
it's different instruments. But I'll find a pawn shop. I'll go to. When I was in high school, I went to pawn shops like every time I drove by one and checked out all the instruments.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, oh man, I'm gonna find like some sort of lost treasure instrument. Not that I knew the values of any of them. I just imagined that like one of them was going to, shine in my eye in a certain way, and I would know that it was the chosen
Did you buy
axe.
any?
Well, I mean, I bought that accordion from a completely different accordion for those of you listening. I bought that accordion from Agora,
Mm.
and
That wasn't a pawn shop where you were in high
it was
school, though.
well, yeah, okay, that's true. My first bass, I got from a pawn shop,
Okay.
and but for completely different reasons. But so anyway, I have a reoccurring dream where I find a magical instrument that I can play effortlessly, and which makes beautiful music of the type that I am attempting to make. And I will be. It is not like I'm just playing it, and it's like a Jack in the Box where you crank it and it goes do 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 do. It's not like that. It's like I'm just fucking noodling like a.
In your dream, you're rocking out on
I
it.
am doing amazing. I am caressing the instrument in such a way that like it is telling a story. And so having any amount of similar experience in the real world is very exciting for me. And I
Well, then why didn't you make the scene at the beginning where dude goes in the pawn shop and like picks out the accordion?
funny that you mentioned that.
Ha ha ha.
The mechanic, the accordion mechanic was from Accordion on Wheels, which does start out that way, or was intended to start out with that
Oh,
way.
you were gonna make that game, but you never made that part.
Yeah, I never made that part. I never
Oh.
made the pawn shop scene.
So I wonder if another one of those exists. Maybe that's what like learning games are about, or I don't know. Like, could you have a game where Now I'm just speculating, though. I'm not talking
Let's
about ones
hear
that
it.
really exist.
I have a feeling I'm going to say City Lights.
Well, no. I have a fantasy about learning things I'm not really interested in learning. Like, when we bought the electronics kit to learn how circuits work,
Yep.
like to do it through a game, or, maybe you could get, or
Yeah.
I always think I can get better at cooking by buying those like recipe games, even though they're just a bunch of recipes on the DS.
Yep. And we spent a long time looking for a Korean language game that would teach you Korean.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I have a fantasy that games are going to teach me things.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they never, and I guess maybe I can see this as a semi-successful one.
There's a game on Steam
not
called
really.
Car Mechanics Simulator, and every time it goes down to $6, I'm like, I'm gonna get it.
I'm gonna get it.
But then I look at the discussions again, and everyone's like the thread I constantly find is the one where someone's like, here's a comparison of what you have to do in order to change the brakes on the car in the game. And this is what you have to actually do in real life, and it's like 20 additional steps. And I'm like, oh well, I don't care then.
I look forward to those games being successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, based off of what I saw with HoloLens in that render, I think the future's so bright that you're gonna have to wear those shades. Did you catch that?
Unfortunately, I did. But I'm still. Where's the Oculus? Where's my Google Glass? I want to record everything so I can play it back and be right.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about free games, not like $1,000 hardware.
That doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Well, no. I want to talk about Terribly Fast World.
Really? Why?
Because we just played it just now.
Yeah.
And you really enjoyed it.
Yeah. But
I really enjoyed it.
I can't describe anything about it. Like, it just happened. I haven't thought anything about it. I haven't thought about it at all.
Do you mind if I do?
Do what you must. I'm going to go get some water.
Okay. We're going to end it then.
Why?
Well, because you're not here. Can I pour some of this in your cup?
Okay. I don't have anything to contribute to this conversation.
All right. Well, then maybe we should just end it.
Well, say what you want to say. Obviously, you have something you want to say. Tell the people.
Noop just made a game in Unity, and it's a 3D world that has been populated with a bunch of image files, and it's a series of rooms that you walk through and see the different images and hear different soundtracks, and it's broken up in 3 acts with play cards. Is that what they're called?
I got nothing.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
No.
Like in silent movies?
Oh, yeah.
It's broken up with those cards that have descriptions of the act name. And I thought that the organization of it kept it flowing really fast. I moved through it. The first time I tried to play it, I actually couldn't figure out where the door was, and didn't know if there was more game. But since it was 93 megabytes, I assumed that there was more game. I just didn't know where it was.
Yeah, it's all the Mozart on the ground.
Oh yeah, when Chrissy played, it took her a while to get through a level, and I think that boxes of Mozart were spawning the entire time she was in the room.
Frame rate was like...
So the frame rate went down to like 3 frames a second, which made it even harder to navigate.
The art is awesome. To not contribute to contribute. It's like I'm playing a collage game. I really enjoyed the visual aspect of this game.
So what about the relationship between the drawn elements and the elements that look like they were ripped from Google Image?
Even the drawn images looked like they were taken out. They still look like they were being collaged on. It's
In what way?
It's the way they were cut out. Everything being cut out and placed together. The whole room was a collage.
Everything was rectangular.
Not just the cutout obvious from magazines people that were in the room. The fact that each image was cut out and like on the floor moving versus having cut out things on the wall, it's like you were going in a collaged room, even if some of the things that were cut out were drawn. They were still cut out.
So it's largely because it's placed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how to say other than I liked it, which I don't feel like is a really
Mhm.
valuable way to describe something.
Well, I can say what I liked about it. As I was going through, the choice of certain images was interesting to me, and even challenging. And as I'm going through it, I'm trying to, not necessarily try to ask. I'm not asking myself, what is this all about? I'm saying, uh, the how do I put it? The images felt related enough to representations of things that I got the sense that environments were being simulated, but they were surreal. And the big thing that I take away from that game is I've been a little bogged down. I'd say last couple of days, like I've worked a little bit on Unity projects, but not much at all. And playing that game makes me want to make games.
Mm,
When I play that
that's
game,
awesome.
I'm like, oh, I need to fucking color some cubes, throw them together, adjust the jump, make myself bouncy, and just arrange objects in three-dimensional space, put some music in there, and
I'm gonna have to go ahead and disagree with you about that. Somebody already did it. You need to make a visual novel for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I need to do both.
Okay.
I need the freedom to doodle, but I also need to be working on a larger project at the same time. So
Do you feel satisfied?
I do, but do you want to put that call out that you wanted to put out, that you said you wanted to put out?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, here's the situation. I'm a categorizer in my brain.
And we discuss how to categorize these games, not just all together, but like individually.
Yeah.
We discuss this a lot because they're impossible to search for unless you just use the name of the game maker.
Whenever I am like, if I like a song, I'm gonna look up more of that genre. If I like a story, I'm gonna look up more of that genre. So I spend a lot of time thinking about what makes each thing individual, so I can connect other things to it. Like what aspect of it in
Is
it?
is the thing that makes it one category rather than another?
Yeah. And so versus Clyde, when he likes something, he finds out who makes it.
Because the best way to find music is to find out who the musicians and the producer is involved in it, and then look for their name on other people's CDs.
Right. So yeah, we just have different approaches to refining our tastes.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, trying to understand these games and play these games and get immersed in these games, I think what I'm trying to do is find a connection between all of them. Like, what genre is this? Is this a genre? Like, how would other people?
Are you talking about all the games we're discussing?
Yeah,
right
all
now?
the games we're discussing, short, free games that we're talking about in the short free games talk. Like, Clyde seems to think if I were to call this a genre, then that wouldn't go over well.
It's, to me, it seems more like of a network of like-minded individuals. And when I say like-minded, I say that very broadly.
So what I'm really interested in is hearing people's descriptions of what these games are.
Or what the search term is, or
Yeah, like, I don't even know how to describe it when we're talking about the games we're talking about on this show. Like, are they not connected enough? Are we just talking about a bunch of different games and they don't even have to have a genre? Or, like, I feel like they are kind of all connected together by something, but I can't tell what it is. So I'm really interested in what other people think about that.
I hate to beg it, but can you state that again as a clear question?
How is it unclear?
I was hoping for just like a real simplistic, clear question.
Can you make a simplistic, clear question out of what I just said? Because I felt like it was
How
clear.
would you search for games that are the ones that we include?
That's not my only question. How would you describe the genre of the games that we are talking about?
Besides saying short and free.
Yeah. Like, what are we talking about? Is that a clear question?
Yeah.
Okay. I really hate Twitter because you can only use like
144.
10 words. I mean, I can see why it's attractive to gamers because it's like a game. trying to figure out how to like make a sentence with that many characters.
It's like, did you ever write haikus?
No. But my Twitter is capt_Hastings, HISTINGS, CAPT_ Captain Hastings from Agatha Christie. He is the sidekick of Poirot, much like
I'm your sidekick?
no. Who's Sherlock's sidekick that everybody
Watson.
knows? Yeah, but he's like way better.
Watson's way better than
No, Captain Hastings is like the best. Anyway, so if anybody wants to talk about that, I'm really interested in doing so. Is there anything else you want to add before the end?
Nope.
Although I doubt I can talk about anything in 101 characters.
Well, you're just looking for suggestions.
Yeah, I'm looking for information more than I'm interested in responding to it. Also, don't forget that our Tumblr is, because I do use Tumblr and I know how to make a page, Short Free Games Talk at .tumblr.com, where we will put up screenshots of all the games that we talked about today.
And of course, this episode will also be there. But
Of
you're already
course.
listening to it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Have a good week.
Bye. Have fun.